This is absolutely explosive. The United States and Iran are about to sit down for emergency nuclear negotiations in Oman this Friday, February 6th, and what happens in that room could determine whether we see World War III or whether Trump pulls off the most dramatic diplomatic victory in modern history. According to Reuters, which broke the story on February 4th, 2026, the talks were originally scheduled for Turkey, but Iran demanded a last-minute venue change to Oman. And the reason for this change tells you everything you need to know about how desperate both sides are to avoid all-out war. Let me set the scene for you. Right now, at this very moment, the United States has the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier strike group positioned in the Arabian Sea near Iran. According to U.S. Central Command, which issued a statement just yesterday, Iranian forces shot down an American surveillance drone that approached the Lincoln. They didn't just shoot it down. According to Iran International, which reported on February 4th, Iran's Revolutionary Guard also harassed a U.S.-flagged oil tanker in the Strait of Hormuz before American naval forces had to escort it to safety. We are on the absolute razor's edge of military conflict. But here's what makes this situation so unprecedented. According to Wikipedia's extensively documented article on Iran's nuclear program, updated February 2nd, 2026, the United States and Israel literally bombed Iran's nuclear facilities just 8 months ago. On June 21, 2025, American warplanes struck the deeply buried Fordow enrichment facility, the sprawling Natanz complex, and the Esfahan nuclear site. These weren't warning shots. According to the International Atomic Energy Agency reports cited by the World Nuclear Association, there was extensive damage at Esfahan. The Fordow facility, which is built deep inside a mountain, was hit with penetrating bunker buster bombs. Israel had already struck these same sites 8 days earlier on June 13th. So let me be absolutely clear about what we're talking about. The United States bombed Iran. Israel bombed Iran. Thousands of Iranian nuclear scientists and military personnel died in those strikes. Iran's nuclear program was devastated, and now, less than 8 months later, they're sitting down to negotiate. According to Bloomberg, which published their report on February 4th, 2026, Iran specifically requested moving the talks from Istanbul to Oman because they want the discussions to be a direct continuation of previous nuclear negotiations that took place in Oman. They're trying to revive the framework that existed before the bombs started falling. But here's the terrifying reality that's driving both sides to the negotiating table. According to the Arms Control Association, which maintains comprehensive tracking of Iran's nuclear program, Iran was enriching uranium to 60% purity before those June strikes. Weapons-grade uranium is 90%. Iran was closer to having a nuclear weapon than at any point in history. According to Iran Watch, which published detailed analysis based on International Atomic Energy Agency data from May 17, 2025, Iran had enough enriched uranium that it could produce weapons-grade material for 5 nuclear bombs within 1 week, 5 nuclear bombs in 7 days. Let that sink in. And according to that same analysis, they could produce enough material for 8 bombs in less than 2 weeks. Now, the strikes in June were supposed to solve this problem. The United States and Israel thought they had set Iran's nuclear program back by years, but according to the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, which published satellite imagery analysis on January 2026, Iran is already rebuilding. At a site called Talagan 2 within the Parchin military complex, construction is in its final stages. At Natanz, Iran has erected privacy covers over the bombed facilities and is conducting excavation work. At Esfahan, they're clearing debris and fortifying tunnel entrances. According to Andrea Stricker, who wrote the FDD analysis, Iran is pursuing efforts to determine if nuclear assets survived the strikes and is working to salvage equipment. This is why Trump is negotiating. According to Axios, which published breaking news on February 3, 2026, Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff and the president's son-in-law Jared Kushner are leading the American team. On the Iranian side, according to Reuters, Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi is heading their delegation. Trump himself confirmed the talks in the Oval Office on Tuesday. According to The National, which quoted Trump directly on February 4th, he told reporters, "They would like to negotiate. We are negotiating with them right now. There's more than one meeting." When asked where the meetings would be held, Trump answered, "I can't tell you that." But here's where this gets complicated. According to Bloomberg's reporting from February 4th, Iran is resisting American pressure to include Iran's ballistic missile program and support for allied militias in the negotiations. Iran wants to talk only about the nuclear file, nothing else. According to a regional official who spoke to Reuters on condition of anonymity, Iran insisted from the beginning that discussions be limited to nuclear issues while Washington wanted other issues on the agenda as well. This is a fundamental disagreement that could sink the talks before they even start. And the stakes could not be higher. According to the House of Commons Library in the UK, which published an extensive briefing on February 3, 2026, Iran currently has a stockpile of enriched uranium that is more than 40 times what was permitted under the 2015 nuclear deal. 40 times. And they're continuing to expand their enrichment capabilities by installing more advanced centrifuges. According to that same briefing, the International Atomic Energy Agency noted in May 2025 that Iran is the only non-nuclear weapon state in the world that is producing and accumulating uranium enriched to 60%. Let me explain what this means in practical terms. According to multiple expert analyses, including from the Institute for Science and International Security, Iran's nuclear breakout time is almost zero. That means if Iran made the decision tomorrow to build a nuclear weapon, they could have enough weapons-grade uranium in a matter of days. Now, actually building a deliverable nuclear weapon would take longer. According to nuclear experts widely cited in these reports, weaponization could take several months or even years. But the key ingredient, the fissile material, they can get that almost instantly. This is why Trump sent warships to the Persian Gulf in January. According to Al Jazeera, which covered Trump's military buildup extensively, the president was preparing to strike Iran's nuclear facilities again. Trump said on Sunday, January 26th, "We have very big, powerful ships heading in that direction." But then something changed. According to the Atlantic Council, which published analysis on February 3rd, Trump appeared to pivot toward negotiations. The think tank noted that returning to negotiations is undoubtedly a short-term win for Iran, especially coming just weeks after the Iranian regime massacred thousands of protesters in January. But here's what Iran is reportedly willing to offer. According to the Atlantic Council's reporting, at one point Iran proposed handing over its stockpile of 60% enriched uranium to a third party such as Turkey. This is the same concession that was discussed at the United Nations General Assembly in September. If this happens, if Iran transfers its highly enriched uranium and allows International Atomic Energy Agency inspectors back in, it would be a significant achievement. According to experts quoted in the Atlantic Council piece, Iran's 60% enriched uranium is arguably its most significant piece of nuclear leverage. But there are massive questions about what Iran is asking for in return. According to the same analysis, the IAEA must be able to account for all 440 kilograms of highly enriched uranium that it was tracking before the June strikes. 440 kilograms. Where is that material now? Was it destroyed in the strikes? Did Iran hide it? Is it being enriched further in secret facilities? These are life and death questions. And Iran is playing hardball on the format of these talks. According to The National, which reported on February 4th based on a regional diplomatic source, Iran wants to change not just the venue, but also the participants. Originally, the foreign ministers of Egypt, Oman, Pakistan, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE were expected to attend. But according to Iran International, Tehran now wants the talks to be strictly bilateral with the United States. They don't want Arab countries in the room when they're negotiating about their missiles and regional proxies. Iranian Foreign Minister Araghchi has been working the phones intensively. According to Iran's foreign ministry announcements reported by Tasnim news agency on February 4th, Araghchi carried out phone calls on Tuesday night with his counterparts in Turkey, Oman, Qatar, Kuwait, and Jordan. He's trying to manage the regional reaction to whatever deal might emerge from these talks. Meanwhile, Steve Witkoff has been in Israel meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. According to Axios, Israeli officials say that meeting focused on Iran, and Netanyahu brought along Israel Defense Forces Chief of Staff. Israel is deeply concerned about any deal that doesn't address Iran's missile program. After all, it was Iranian ballistic missiles that struck Israel in June, killing Israeli civilians. Here's the fundamental question. Can Trump actually make a deal? According to previous Trump statements reported by Axios and other outlets, the U.S. position was that Iran would need to permanently end enrichment, impose significant constraints on its missile program, and cease support for proxy groups. That's what Steve Witkoff told reporters last month. But Trump himself has been more flexible. He's returned to his 2025 position that Iran simply cannot have a nuclear weapon. There's potentially room for compromise there. But Iran's position is also clear. According to Iran's President Pezeshkian, who was quoted by Al Jazeera on February 2nd, he has instructed his foreign minister to pursue fair and equitable negotiations guided by the principles of dignity, prudence, and expediency, but only if there's a suitable environment, one free from threats and unreasonable expectations. Translation: Iran won't negotiate with American aircraft carriers sitting off their coast making threats. And there's a huge credibility problem on both sides. The United States withdrew from the 2015 nuclear deal in 2018 under Trump's first administration. Why should Iran trust that any new deal will last? And Iran repeatedly violated that 2015 deal after the US withdrew. According to the Arms Control Association, Iran began breaching limits in 2019, just 1 year after the US withdrawal. Since then, Iran has expanded uranium enrichment to levels that have no civilian purpose and deployed advanced centrifuges. The Europeans are also involved. According to Wikipedia's article on Iran's nuclear program, in August 2025, France, Germany, and the United Kingdom initiated the snapback mechanism at the United Nations. They stated that despite upholding their own commitments, Iran had increasingly and deliberately ceased performing its JCPOA commitments since 2019. On September 28, 2025, UN sanctions were officially reimposed on Iran. And here's something that makes this even more dangerous. According to multiple reports cited in the Wikipedia article, in December 2025, it was reported that in October, Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei had authorized the development of miniaturized nuclear warheads for ballistic missiles. If that's true, Iran isn't just trying to build a nuclear bomb, they're trying to build deliverable nuclear weapons that can be mounted on missiles and fired at Israel, Saudi Arabia, or even American bases in the region. This is why the talks in Oman matter so much. According to Iran's Foreign Ministry spokesman Esmail Baghaei, quoted in multiple sources on February 4th, the location and timing of the meeting should not be used as fodder for media games. But this isn't a game. This is potentially the most important negotiation of the 21st century so far. If the talks succeed, if Trump and Iran can find a way to verifiably freeze Iran's nuclear program in exchange for sanctions relief, it could reshape the entire Middle East. Iran's economy is in shambles according to multiple analyses. They desperately need sanctions relief, and Trump wants a foreign policy victory. He wants to be the president who solved the Iran crisis through negotiation rather than war. But if the talks fail, we could be looking at a military strike that makes the June bombings look like a warning shot. According to military analysts, any future strike would need to be even more comprehensive because Iran has learned from the June attacks. They're hardening facilities, dispersing equipment, building deeper bunkers. The Foundation for Defense of Democracy's analysis concluded that President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu may need to follow through on their threats to strike any resumption of Iranian nuclear activities, and Iran has options to retaliate. According to U.S. Central Command, Iranian forces are already harassing American ships and shooting down American drones. Iran has ballistic missiles that can hit American bases throughout the Middle East. They have proxy forces in Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen. A war with Iran would not be a quick, clean operation. It would be a regional conflict that could drag in multiple countries and last for years. So when Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner sit down across from Abbas Araghchi in Oman on Friday, they'll be negotiating over more than just uranium enrichment levels and centrifuge numbers. They'll be negotiating over war and peace. They'll be deciding whether the Trump administration's approach to Iran will be defined by diplomacy or by military strikes. And they'll be determining whether Iran becomes a nuclear-armed state or whether the world can step back from that precipice. The next few days will be absolutely critical. According to all the reporting from Reuters, Bloomberg, Axios, and other sources, the talks are scheduled for Friday, February 6th. That's just 2 days away. We should know very quickly whether there's any basis for agreement or whether we're headed toward military confrontation. This is the kind of high-stakes diplomacy that doesn't happen very often. The last time we saw negotiations this important was probably the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962. The stakes are similar: nuclear weapons, potential for catastrophic war, and two sides that deeply distrust each other trying to find a way to avoid mutual destruction. Stay tuned to this channel for breaking updates as this situation develops. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because this story is moving fast and the consequences will affect the entire world. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think. Can Trump make a deal with Iran, or are we headed for war? I want to hear your thoughts. And if you found this video informative, please give it a thumbs up and share it with anyone who needs to understand what's really happening between the United States and Iran right now. This is Capital Pulse, bringing you the truth about the most dangerous crisis facing America today.